Thank you for coming to this consultation. Today we will be diagnosing your son with a speech disorder. And with that, we will talk about what the disorder encounters and what you see when someone has this disorder, all the treatment options and the technology that we can use to help them. And that's about it. So first, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Morgan Petrosius. I graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with my master's degree in speech-language pathology. I've been a speech-language pathologist for about 2 years now, and I've been in a variety of different locations, like schools working with young students, to hospitals working with traumatic brain injury patients, rehabilitation centers working with dementia and Alzheimer's patients, and kind of teaching them how to, with memory, and how to work on speaking and articulation. So obviously we're here for your son. So we're gonna watch a short video of kind of what your son looks like when we were diagnosing him with his disorder. So we'll watch this. So this is him in his therapy session.
Okay, Cash, can you tell me how old you are?
3.
You're 3? Wow, can you tell me your name? What? Your name's not Dad. Silly. Can you say Cash? Good try. What did you do today? You swam. Swimming. Can you say bubble?
No.
Bubble. Oh, you blow. You blew bubbles in the water?
Yeah.
Can you say bubble?
Yeah.
Say it.
No.
Bubble.
Oh,
Fallon too?
yeah.
How old is Fallon?
Yeah.
1. Do you guys like to go swimming?
Yeah.
What else do you like to do?
Duck.
Truck? What? Oh, the park?
Yeah.
You like to go to the park? Can you say park again?
Duck.
Park with a P. Park. Good try. What's your favorite thing to do at the park?
And I done. Nay.
Play?
Like night. Nay.
Play on the slide?
Like.
Okay, so that's a video of your son during his one of his speech therapy sessions. And so after that video, we diagnosed him with apraxia of speech, which this is kind of like a little handout I made. So we'll talk about what apraxia is and all that good stuff. Do you have any questions so far before I begin? No? Okay. So when a patient has apraxia, the main thing that is wrong is that the connection from the brain to the mouth cannot function correctly, so they have trouble, their signals have trouble reaching the mouth to correctly say speech sounds. So the patient may not be able to move their lips or their tongue in the right place to articulate the correct speech sounds, and even sometimes they can't speak at all. But obviously in this case your son can speak, so that's a good first step. Also, people with apraxia will know exactly what they want to say, but they can't produce the correct articulation and speech sounds to say those words. So most of the time it's very frustrating for a patient with this disorder because they know what they want to say, but other people can't understand them. And then apraxia is not caused by weakness or paralysis of the speech muscles, so your son does not have weak muscles. It's more just that the brain connection to the mouth cannot be delivered correctly and accurately. There's a variety of different severities from patient to patient, and I would probably diagnose your son with mild to severe just because he is 3 years, 9 months, so he's almost the age of 4. And at that time, they're supposed to say full sentences and full words, and obviously he is not really doing that, so that's what we're gonna work on. And then most patients who suffer this disorder, there's no real cause, so it's not anything you guys did or that he doesn't do correctly. It's more just most patients are born with it, and then that's when they have to go to speech therapy to help with that. So any questions so far? Any concerns? Nope? Okay. So now on here, we'll go down to here with these 2 sections. So now we'll talk about kind of what made us diagnose your son with apraxia of speech. There's 2 different types of signs that we look for, whether they're under the age of 3 or over the age of 3. So since your son is almost 4 years old, we're going to be looking at these 3 main things. So when we were looking at the video, the first thing we noticed was distorted sounds, which is very common for patients with apraxia. So that means they have trouble pronouncing words correctly. And like you said, like you saw in the video, I thought he said truck, but he was trying to say park. So it's really like he can produce speech sounds, but it's not the correct one, which is what we'll be working on. And then also distorting sounds. They might not be able to place the speech in the correct place, so with the tongue, jaw, or mouth, that won't be in the perfect place, so the words almost come out distorted or incorrect most of the time. And like I said before, it becomes very frustrating for them and all that stuff. And then the second thing we look for is making inconsistent errors in speech. So sometimes a patient with apraxia of speech can make a correct speech sound, but then they will have trouble repeating it again or saying it multiple times. It's almost lucky if they do say it correctly, just because after they say it correctly, they probably can't say it correctly again. And then the last thing we noticed was the groping for sound. So most times with patients, groping of sounds almost sounds like stuttering, just because it takes them so long to produce the speech sound because they're trying over and over and over. So they do say the exact same speech sound, like trying to get out. So it almost sounds like stuttering. So that's another thing that we look for when telling patients what kind of disorder they have and diagnosing them with that. So yeah, with that, that's kind of how we diagnose your son with apraxia of speech. Do you have any questions, or have you guys ever noticed this in your son?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, are there any causes to apraxia, or is it unknown?
It's really unknown. There's no like true cause for it. Most of the time they're born with it, and then you just kind of, once they're born with it, this is really like the cues, you can tell they have it, but it's not really caused by anything. Like if, say your son was to be in an accident, this couldn't really be caused by like a traumatic brain injury or something like that. It would most likely be another disorder if that happened. So yeah, any more?
So is it something like, I guess it kind of goes with that, like, is it like something different in the brain that's not like connecting?
It's just like, so there's more like a slow connection. So there's less like signals being sent from the brain to the mouth with someone from apraxia. So like, I don't really know what like a normal patient has, like how many axons they fire or whatever you call that off the dendrites. But like this is much slower. It's kind of just like a turtle compared to like a race, like a fast racer, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, it's honestly like all it is that connection between the brain. And sometimes they do have trouble with connection to the whole body too. So that's another sign that you can look for if they're struggling in speech, is to see if their body, like, or their movements to their body is slower too. Okay. Any more? So now we'll talk about the treatment options for your son and what I would like to do with him within the speech therapy sessions, and then for later on I will talk about what you guys can do with him in the home to help kind of move him along in the communication and speaking with all that. So up here are the two main goals we have for treatment. So the first one is just aiding your loved ones in saying sounds, words, and sentences more clearly, because communication obviously is key. You use it in school, use it with your peers, your teachers. So obviously when he goes off to school, he's going to want to be able to communicate with his teachers and peers, because that's really how you build relationships, is that communication. And if they can't understand him, then that's going to get frustrating. And then the second one is not really a goal, but like I said before, this is not really a disorder because of weak muscles. It's more just the connection from the brain to the mouth. So like exercises to build the mouth muscles will not really help as much as just working on how the muscles say the sound. So a lot of repetition so that the muscles in your mouth and tongue can get familiar with just where it's supposed to be when you're producing specific speech sounds. So the first treatment option that we will most likely be doing with your son within the therapy session is called articulatory kinematic approach, which is a motor programming planning. So what that means is it's just more about the main picture, so just how the mouth looks when they're producing a sound, or like when you say ooh, like your mouth literally looks like an O. Okay, yeah, so and then articulatory kinematic approach focuses a lot on repetition. So it's a lot of me saying something and then your son repeating it and just going back and forth. A lot of the time we do bring a mirror into the session so that like he can sit in front of a mirror and see where his tongue is, or he can even look where mine is. There will be pictures of where it's supposed to be so that he can say like, oh, this is where my tongue's supposed to be when I say K. Which with younger children, it's more the mirror is the best options, because sometimes when you explain it to them, they don't really understand it since he is at a young age. And then the second one we would use is the sensory cueing approach, which is kind of the most common form of treatment for apraxia of speech. So with this, it incorporates visual and auditory to teach movement for sequences for speech, and this would focus on really how the sounds feel in your mouth, and so most of the time I would like to work with your son on putting the speech sounds with like a gesture. So like say for example we're working with the letter T and how to say that, you could do like so every time they say it, they have to tap the table, or every time they say it, they have to clap. So then later on, my goal is for that tapping or the clapping to go away, and they'll still be able to produce it correctly, just so that the brain kind of interprets it while they're doing something else. So obviously, these are not all the treatment options, but that's the ones that I would like to work with in therapy sessions. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So now we'll go on to what type of technology I will use within therapy sessions, and even that you can use at home. And then what, like I said, we could talk about what I would like you guys to do with him at home. So the first and like the most common technology device is an AAC device, or an augmentative alternative communication device. Have you guys ever heard of those? No. Okay, so a lot of the times, not just, so apraxia is not like the only disorder. Obviously an AAC device is used for. A lot of times it's for like people who cannot speak at all. So like say someone has a traumatic brain injury and they lost the ability to speak. So this is what an AAC device looks like. It could be on a computer or a tablet, and sometimes you might even see it on an electrical wheelchair if they have like a screen coming off of their armchair. That's what an AAC device is. So technically it's just a piece of technology that you use when it gives your like it gives you a voice, like an electronic voice technically. So not only patients that have no voice can use this, like I will recommend using this with your son with apraxia because it will improve his communication skills and all that stuff. So yes, so there's 3 types of AAC devices: high tech, mid tech, and low tech. So I would most likely use high tech and low tech. High tech is, like I explained before, the automated. So I guess I could explain it in here. So it comes with all these buttons. It obviously always doesn't look like this. There's like a bunch of different like ways you can program it to fit your patient, but like if you wanted to say my, or he would just click it, and then it would obviously project a voice out, and so that you would know what he's saying. And then low tech, this is low tech, so that's no electronic devices, nothing. So this is kind of the more affordable option because you can make this in the comfort of your home just by printing pictures out. So like obviously here you see different types of categories and there's a picture, so you could say, oh, what would you like for breakfast?